Jacob receives the glad tidings by Ginzberg. In blithe spirits the sons of Jacob journeyed up to the land of Canaan, but when they reached the boundary line they said to one another, "How shall we do? If we appear before our father and tell him that Joseph is alive, he will be greatly frightened, and he will not be inclined to believe us." Besides, Joseph's last injunction to them had been to take heed and not startle their father with the tidings of joy. On coming close to their habitation, they caught sight of Sarah, the daughter of Asher, a very beautiful maiden and very wise, who was skilled in playing upon the harp. They summoned her unto them and gave her a harp, and bade her play before Jacob and sing that which they should tell her. She sat down before Jacob, and with an agreeable melody she sang the following words, accompanying herself upon the harp. "Joseph my uncle liveth, he ruleth over the whole of Egypt, he is not dead." She repeated these words several times, and Jacob grew more and more pleasurably excited. His joy awakened the Holy Spirit in him, and he knew that she spoke the truth. The spirit of prophecy never visits a seer when he is in a state of lassitude or in a state of grief. It comes only together with joy. All the years of Joseph's separation from him Jacob had had no prophetic visions, because he was always sad, and only when Sarah's words reawakened the feeling of happiness in his heart, the prophetic spirit again took possession of him. 294 Jacob rewarded her therefore with the words, "My daughter, may death never have power over thee, for thou didst revive my spirit." And so it was. Sarah did not die, she entered paradise alive. At his bidding she repeated the words she had sung again and again, and they gave Jacob great joy and delight, so that the Holy Spirit waxed stronger and stronger within him. While he was sitting thus in converse with Sarah, his sons appeared arrayed in all their magnificence, and with all the presents that Joseph had given them, and they spake to Jacob, saying, "Glad tidings, Joseph our brother liveth, he is ruler over the whole land of Egypt, and he sends thee a message of joy." At first Jacob would not believe them, but when they opened their packs and showed him the presents Joseph had sent to all, he could not doubt the truth of their words any longer. 295. Joseph had had a premonition that his father would refuse to give his brethren credence, because they had tried to deceive him before, and it is the punishment of the liar that his words are not believed even when he speaks the truth. He had therefore said to them, "If my father will not believe your words, tell him that when I took leave of him, to see whether it was well with you, he had been teaching me the law of the heifer whose neck is broken in the valley." When they repeated this, every last vestige of Jacob's doubt disappeared, and he said, "Great is the steadfastness of my son Joseph. In spite of all his sufferings, he has remained constant in his piety. Yea, great are the benefits that the Lord hath conferred upon me. He saved me from the hands of Esau, and from the hands of Laban, and from the Canaanites who pursued after me. I have tasted many joys, and I hope to see more, but never did I hope to set eyes upon Joseph again, and now I shall go down to him and behold him before my death." 297. Then Jacob and the members of his family put on the clothes Joseph had sent, among them a turban for Jacob, and they made all preparations to journey down into Egypt and dwell there with Joseph and his family. Hearing of his good fortune, the kings and the grandees of Canaan came to wait upon Jacob and express sympathy with him in his joy, and he prepared a 3 days banquet for them. 298. Jacob, however, would not go down into Egypt without first inquiring whether it was the will of God that he should leave the Holy Land. He said, "How can I leave the land of my fathers, the land of my birth, the land in which the Shekinah dwells, and go into an unclean land, inhabited by slaves of the sons of Ham, a land wherein there is no fear of God?" 300. Then he brought sacrifices in honor of God, in the expectation that a divine vision would descend upon him, and instruct him whether to go down into Egypt or have Joseph come up to Canaan. He feared the sojourn in Egypt, for he remembered the vision he had had at Bethel on leaving his father's house. 301, and he said to God, "I resemble my father. As he was greedy in filling his maw, so am I, and therefore I would go down into Egypt in consequence of the famine. As my father preferred one son to the other, so had I a favorite son, and therefore I would go down into Egypt to see Joseph. But in this I do not resemble my father, he had only himself to provide for, and my house consists of 70 souls, and therefore am I compelled to go down into Egypt. The blessing which my father gave me was not fulfilled in me, but in my son Joseph, whom people serve, and before whom nations bow down." 302. Then the Shekinah addressed Jacob, calling his name twice in token of love. 303, and bidding him not to fear the Egyptian slavery foretold for the descendants of Abraham, for God would have pity upon the suffering of his children, and deliver them from bondage. 304. God furthermore said, "I will go down into Egypt with thee." And the Shekinah accompanied Jacob thither, bringing the number of the company with which he entered Egypt up to 70. But as Jacob entertained fears that his descendants would stay there forever, God gave him the assurance that he would lead him forth together with all the pious that were like unto him. 306. And God also told Jacob that Joseph had remained steadfast in his piety even in Egypt, and he might dismiss all doubts from his mind on this score, for it was his anxiety on this account that had induced Jacob to consider going down into Egypt. He wanted only to make sure of Joseph's faithfulness and then return home, but God commanded him to go thither and remain there. 307. Before Jacob left Canaan, he went to Beersheba, to hew down the cedars that Abraham had planted there, and take them with him to Egypt. For centuries these cedar trees remained in the possession of his descendants. They carried them with them when they left Egypt, and they used them in building the tabernacle. 308. Although Joseph had put wagons at the disposal of his brethren for the removal of his family from Canaan to Egypt, they yet carried Jacob upon their arms, for which purpose they divided themselves into 3 divisions, one division after the other assuming the burden. As a reward for their filial devotion, God redeemed their descendants from Egypt. 309. Judah was sent on ahead by his father to erect a dwelling in Goshen, and also a Bet ha-midrash, that Jacob might set about instructing his sons at once after his arrival. He charged Judah with this honorable task in order to compensate him for a wrong he had done him. All the years of Joseph's absence he bad suspected Judah of having made away with Rachel's son. 310. How little the suspicion was justified, he realized now when Judah in particular had been assiduous in securing the safety of Benjamin, the other son of Rachel. Jacob therefore said to Judah, Thou hast done a pious, God-bidden deed, and hast shown thyself to be a man capable of carrying on negotiations with Joseph. Complete the work thou hast begun, go to Goshen and together with Joseph prepare all things for our coming. Indeed, continued Jacob, thou wast the cause of our going down into Egypt, for it was at thy suggestion that Joseph was sold as a slave, and also, through thy descendants Israel will be led forth out of Egypt. 311. When Joseph was informed of the approach of his father, he rejoiced exceedingly, chiefly because his coming would stop the talk of the Egyptians, who were constantly referring to him as the slave that had dominion over them. Now, thought Joseph, they will see my father and my brethren, and they will be convinced that I am a free-born man of noble stock. In his joy in anticipation of seeing his father, Joseph made ready his chariot with his own hands, without waiting for his servants to minister to him, and this loving action redounded later to the benefit of the Israelites, for it rendered of none effect Pharaoh's zeal in making ready his chariot himself, with his own hands, to pursue after the Israelites. 312.